Welcome one and all to episode 20 of Titan Teatime. I'm one of your hosts, Petter, and with me I've got my co-host, James.
Let's go!
Yes! And in today's episode, we're talking about chapter 137 of the Attack on Titan manga. The chapter is called Titans.
Oh
Simply
man.
Titans. Before we get into, getting our way through the chapter and discussing it, I would just like to wish Mikasa Ackerman a happy birthday.
Yes,
Because
happy birthday, Mikasa.
February 10th. It is actually February 10th where I am at right now, as we were
Ah,
recording it. But the episode will also go up on February 10th if all goes according to plan. So happy birthday, Mikasa.
happy birthday, you precious angel, you.
Yes.
Death angel.
Yep. So yeah, right off the bat in this chapter, we get to see a little bit on well, it's narrated by Zeke, and we get to see this in on the first page with the little flashbacks to like prehistoric times. We get to see the centipede creature, and seems like it was just one of many prehistoric animals that existed way back in the day. And
So,
hmm?
about that, it seems to me that this creature that they're showing here, it doesn't look like the same as the one that's actually connecting to Ymir, right? Like
I don't know.
its head is different. It it doesn't have the little spiky things at the point.
Oh
Um,
yeah, there are a few differences. Yeah,
hmm
I
And
suppose
like, this
it.
this looks like it's more like the one that they're showing on the first page.
Hmm.
That one looks, I forget what the creature's name, but it's actually a creature.
Yeah, hallucigenia or something like that.
Hmm But the one that's with Ymir, the centipede, is not one that we know of,
Right. I think
obviously.
it's probably safe to assume because I mean even Zeke talks about evolution in this in his monologue or dialogue with Armin here. So I
Hmm
think it's probably safe to assume that this thing we see in the on the first chapter here or on the first page here in this chapter might have eventually evolved over time to become the thing that attached itself to Ymir. But then there's
Okay.
still a lot of questions regarding that. I think like
hmm
how did this creature, this animal, gain these pathsy powers
hmm
and all of
Right.
that? Like that whole thing is still an unknown. I think.
Right. So as I as I was reading my second read through, sorry, video game, uh, on my minds. I I thought about the evolution thing, and oh, maybe this thing evolved into that. But I kind of ran into the same problem. Like, how would that work? But it could also just be that this is just one of the many uh, examples of life that just appear, not so much from this particular creature itself, but it just appeared in nature over time. But then again, it's like, well, how does that happen, and why does it happen? Why is that a thing? And
Yes, especially with like the supernatural stuff.
right, the supernatural things, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I necessarily need that to be explained per se. I'm
Uh-huh.
I'm fine with there being a bit of mystery there, um, but at the same time, it would be nice to get some sort of clarity behind it. But that's definitely on the lower side of the totem pole for me. It's not
Mm.
top importance to know. Um, but at the very least, we do know that it is basically the source of Ymir's power. However, because of this chapter, I wonder if Ymir, her desires, is what led to the Titan powers themselves as well as paths, rather than the animal itself being the source. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I've had basically that thought as well with this chapter that the the centipede kind of gave Ymir, or well, potentially, hypothetically,
Potentially, yeah, hypothetically.
gave Ymir the
Ability.
possibility ability to yeah to create everything that we know related to titans and paths and all that. It's either that, like it just gave her that ability to make all of that, or that thing actually, like that was the only thing it
Mm-hmm.
did, like that
Yeah.
was specific. Like it's hard to say, but I kind of like the idea more that it was Ymir who kind of based on her background uh, made everything the way they are.
Yeah. I think it gives it it answers a question. If it was Ymir who made it like that,
Mm.
then we don't really need to ask the question necessarily why is the centipede able to do that, or why is that the source of the power. The only question there is just how is it able to give her that ability.
Right.
But again, that's not necessarily needed for the narrative, I think.
Yeah.
Um, One thing that I just want to point out, we mentioned this in last month's discussion about the centipede and or parasites in general, and how they they their goal in life is just to multiply. Just keep multiplying
Yeah.
and spread its seed. And that's exactly what Zeke starts off talking about. Basically, is that's the
Mhm.
purpose of life, is to multiply. So I thought it was very interesting how we were discussing and theorizing about that, but that and that ends up exactly being kind of the underlining theme through this chapter. So I
Yeah.
just kudos to us for kind of speculating about that.
Yeah, yeah. Like I also thought that that was really interesting, and I thought like I don't think we thought of it in regards to Zeke when we talked about it last month,
Mm-mm. No.
but obviously it was so interesting to I thought it was really interesting to have Zeke be the one to deliver these lines because we all
Mm-hmm.
know what his views are on reproduction, you know. Uh, so for him, it's like the reason why he's been there in paths now for like an astounding amount of time
Mm-hmm.
because in the real world it's been like a few days, and we knew that the like half like split second that he and Aaron were in paths earlier, he had been waiting in there for Aaron for like years,
Mm-hmm.
for like that split second, and now in the real world it's been a couple of days. So I don't know how long that would be in paths. That would still be like a long, long, long time. So he has been there for a very long time, and in all of that time he hasn't done anything because because he sees the purpose of life is to reproduce, but that's not something that he personally supports with his mindset, and that's why
Mm-hmm.
he hasn't done anything. So I think that all makes sense, and it's really interesting. And obviously we'll talk about his growth throughout this chapter, but I think yeah, it's all so it just like comes together so nicely throughout the chapter. I love that.
I'd even go as far as to say beautifully,
Yeah,
personally.
dude.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
think
is. It's so beautiful.
it's very well woven together.
Uh-huh. Totally. And Zeke says that what he has learned in his time here in Paths, he learned that Ymir was still attached to the world that she left behind, and that was the reason why she kept obeying like orders from royal-blooded founders, because she still felt some kind of connection. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and Aaron understood that. Uh, According to Zeke, Aaron understood that. I mean, yeah, I think it was pretty clear that yeah, Aaron did understand Ymir's struggle and where she came from, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But we still have this moment right here, or well, basically, yeah, the whole rumbling is caused by those two characters, by Aaron and Ymir. These two characters who supposedly, at least according to Zeke, feel this attachment to the world, but they want to destroy it, regardless of that.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. It confused me a little bit, but I
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do you think of that?
Well, I had the same question.
Mm.
What does that exactly mean that she's attached to the world? And I think it's more of the idea that she's attached to wanting to live her life, like actually live and not be a
Mm.
slave per se. She still has that desire for freedom. Uh, Now, obviously, destroying the world might be contrary to that, and I'm not exactly sure if that is their end goal, because even later on in the chapter, Armin says, "I have no idea what Ymir wants us to do, or why she connects us like this. I have no idea." And I think
Yeah.
Man, like, can we just have Ymir just say, "Oh yeah, by the way, I just want a big family," or "Oh yeah, I just thought it'd be cool if we could all have te- connection somehow." You know, I,
Right.
I, I want to know. I really want to know, and I'm
Uh-huh.
hoping in the next two chapters, with if we do, and I'm sure we will get more Aaron stuff.
Uh,
I want to see Ymir come into play there, and we get an understanding of why she allowed the rubbling, why she wanted this Titan power connection thing, or at least that why she imagined it. And yeah, so there's a few questions there, and I guess I can't really answer exactly what it means to be attached to the world, but I'm sure that in the last two chapters, I think, or at least I hope, that it will be touched on at the very least.
yeah. Yeah, because Emir is definitely very much of a an enigma right now.
Yeah.
And so is Aaron almost
Mm-hmm.
almost just as much, so.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And to your point, it's interesting that Zeke brings up the fact that he didn't understand Ymir, but Aaron did. I mean, that's a simple way of putting it, but
Uh-huh.
I think that's true
Yeah.
in that Zeke was basically using Ymir as everyone else really did as a slave, whereas Aaron comes and treats her as not a slave, a devil, or a god, but a human being, a little girl
Hmm. Yeah.
who is going to kill the world. but but
Yeah.
he but anyway, he acknowledges that she is just a little girl, um, and so I wonder. I just that just makes me think about a few things. You know, why was that so important for them, and why did that lead to rumbling the entire world? Was it to somehow get rid of the Titan powers, get rid of the Centipede? Was it to somehow cause a rebirth for Ymir so she can actually be born into a healthy, free family? I
Yeah.
honestly, I don't know. My thoughts have been racing about it
Yeah,
entirely.
there's so many possibilities, and I look forward to talking at the end of the discussion about like our predictions and stuff because I can see like a couple different outcomes or yeah, like how it's gonna go forward.
Right.
So yeah, it's very interesting.
And one more thing I'll say about that section with Ymir is
Mm.
he this is Zeke brings up a point that I think a lot of readers wondered, why did she continue to follow the King Fritz, like the original King uh, Eldian King?
Yeah.
And at the time, I was thinking it was just because all she knew was being a slave, and I think this kind of confirms that in that I went back to check what the Eldian King says when she dies, and he says, "Rise, work. That is why you were born. Ymir, my slave."
Mm.
And so her whole life, she thought her purpose in life was just to be a slave, and so that maybe that's the reason why she created paths or the Titans in some way, because she wanted to be useful, wanted to still serve. I guess I
Yeah.
it's kind of a flimsy connection, but at the same time, I can't think of any other reason why those words would inspire any sort of motivation for her besides that.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
anyway, that's
Hmm.
those are my thoughts on Ymir, at least for now.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's a very good possibility. Um, and I mean I can't come up with anything better on that
Mm.
for that, but um, something I really liked in Armin's and Zeke's interaction here, and I think everyone, well, not everyone, but a lot of people probably agree with me, is when Armin recalls a memory of him, Aaron, and Mikasa, And first of all, I love how that memory describes those three characters so well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have Eren kind of leading the charge toward the thing, the tree.
Mm-hmm.
Mikasa, you know, being like closely behind him. She could have easily ran past him, but you know she doesn't because she wants to
Mm-hmm.
be close to him. And Armin coming a bit behind, and he has these thoughts within his head at the time, and like about like this. It's moments like these that I was like, that's the reason why I live, kind of. Um, and obviously to build on that, how that memory, how Armin bringing up that memory and other similar types of memories,
Mm-hmm.
uh, that helped Zeke kind of see the light, uh, and and actually, you know, rise and do something.
Yeah, I thought it was incredibly powerful in that I I mean, how many times are we thinking through life? What's the purpose of life, and
Yeah.
why are we here? Why are we living? What's the point?
Hmm.
And sometimes we forget about these the simple moments, the little moments, and just enjoying the journey, I guess you could say. And I think Armin has been the perfect example of that. Despite all his, self-loathing,
Mm.
I really think he's one of those characters who just finds the joy in the little things. When he had that book with
Yeah.
Aaron when they were younger, and he was just talking about the ocean. I mean, he was so happy about that and just describing it.
Yeah.
And there's other various instances where he's just I felt like he really was in the moment and just so grateful to be alive. And so I
Mm.
think in that sense he was almost the perfect person to talk to Zeke about that, and obviously it helped him. I didn't think that before. I was kind of confused why it would be Armin last chapter, but after reading this and recalling those other moments he had, like, oh yeah, you're right.
Mm.
He I think he was a good character for that.
Absolutely.
So I want to pose a question to you.
Hmm.
How do you feel about Zeke's change of heart here? Should Grisha have been the one to talk to him again in causing it, or are you okay with Armin basically be, uh, being taking the lead on it all?
Uh, I I I think it's perfect the way it is. I think Zeke already had his kind of closure with Grisha. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
not full, like 100%. I think the little bit that we got between them this chapter definitely added to it, but I don't think we needed anything more than we got between Zeke and Grisha this chapter. Um, I think so. Regarding this, I think that Armin being the one and being this crucial in this kind of way, I think is perfect in a not super obvious kind of way. I think when a lot of people think about Armin's strengths, like as a character, the like most people, first of all, will think about his intellect. Kind of, he's
Mm-hmm.
smart. He can come up with good plans, and he has a he has a way with words to basically like he's a diplomat and a thinker,
Mm-hmm.
sort of. Uh, but something that I think a lot of people tend to forget about Armin, and something that Hanji, I think, recalled when she
Oh
promoted
yeah.
him to be the next commander, is that he has this sensitive side to him where he is able to understand others
Mm-hmm.
uh, much better than a lot of other people can do. And I think it's that side of Armin that kind of saved the day here. Well, partially, anyway. Like he was one of the steps.
Right.
And this moment alone, in my mind, justifies Armin being picked over Irvin
Mm-hmm.
to live at the end of Return to Shiganshina. Because hypothetically, if Irvin had been picked
Mm-hmm.
and he had become the colossal titan, and in a similar situation like this, Irvin would have been brought into paths by the Okapi titan. Uh, Irvin, he doesn't have that. I mean, he's a great guy. Don't get me wrong. I love Irvin, but
Right.
he but
Right.
he wouldn't have had he wouldn't have that kind of outlook on life. Uh, you know, suggesting that the reason to be born is not to multiply, but it's actually to enjoy life and to treasure the good moments in life. That's something that I think only Armin could have come up with in that kind of situation out of the characters in the story. And yeah,
Hmm.
I think he's fulfilled his role perfectly in this scene.
I agree, and I think it goes back to what we were discussing, in previous chapters. Armin is basically doing what only he can do. He's not trying to be another Irvin or be a Hanji. He's being himself as the leader,
Yeah. Uh huh.
And I totally agree. He was the perfect one for this job. I mean, not that he knew this was going to happen, but I
Yeah.
I think his ability to understand people and to, but also his innocent and kind of pure outlook on life. I think really helped Zeke in the end there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been on Team Armin since it happened, but uh, I do agree that yeah, I'm so glad that Armin did survive for this moment.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And Armin has never. I don't think he's ever really, or maybe in the very beginning, but like for the most part, he hasn't really been in my top 10 of character lists.
Hmm.
I've always enjoyed him, but he's never been like one of my absolute favorites. But with, I think I said last chapter, like when we saw him, he had just entered the paths and he kind of had this mental crisis.
Hmm.
That moment, and even more the moment here with Zeke in this chapter, has made like he has grown so much in my mind. Potentially into the top 10 list somewhere. I'm not. I don't know exactly, but
Right.
I'm so happy with Armin's character right now.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. I mean, I think right now I'll just say it. Well, you know what? I won't say it. I'm saving my top 10 list for the end of
Yes.
the anime, or not the anime, the manga, just because I made one recently, and I think I had Armin at number one. Oh no, it had Mikasa number one. I had It was either Mikasa number one or Armin number one. Um, but I think it's too soon to make another list, so I'm gonna wait until I've digested the last chapter and then I'll make another list. But
Yeah.
I do agree with you that Armin has had an amazing character arc here,
Mm.
and basically just fulfill his role as a leader is really great to see and satisfying to see as well. Um, you know, he basically did it the only way he knew how, or in his own way, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Totally.
Going back to my original question about Grisha and Zeke and Armin
Right.
and everything,
Yeah.
I personally I agree with you. I think what we got in 120 and 121 was just enough closure for them. I mean, at the end of the day, it was just to recognize, or at least for Zeke to acknowledge that, yeah, I do have the daddy issues, or I did have the daddy issues, and that was basically part of my reasoning for all this. So that was important.
Hmm.
But I also like the fact that even though he had that moment, he didn't change his mind automatically, right?
Yeah.
He still needed time to process and think and truly understand his feelings. And obviously Armin came in to help him with that. But even after that, he never disagreed with his thoughts about euthanizations per se. Although, but he did come to the conclusion that I wouldn't I wouldn't mind throwing the ball with Xavier again, or however you pronounce his name.
Xavier, I guess.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
So I think it's great to see a character like Zeke still kind of hold on to his ideals, but at the same time realize that maybe that's not the best thing, or at the very least acknowledge the beauty in the other side of the opinion, kind of come to a compromise, if you will. So
Hmm.
I really like that about it all, and I don't think having Grisha hug Zeke again would really change that,
Yeah.
if anything.
Right. No, I
Um,
think we got just enough here.
yeah, I totally agree. So I just saw some people, were upset about that for some reason, and I was
Ah,
curious if that bothered you at all, because
gotcha.
it did not bother me.
Good, good.
So about the the scene of them running towards the tree,
Yeah.
one that really left an emotional impact on me. I didn't like weep or cry, but I was getting a little teary eyed just reading that and thinking
Nice.
thinking about that. So I think emotionally speaking, it was so powerful.
Yeah. I think there was a lot of emotional parts in this chapter where at least
Mm,
I felt like I got really touched on several occasions in this throughout this chapter. Like just having Zeke kind of seeing how he when he realizes how precious some of the small moments in his life have
yeah,
been, like that really got me.
yeah, same. That was another one that just seeing them throw catch, it was like, oh man,
Yeah.
don't cry.
Yeah, right.
Um, but I love that. Speaking of that, that I love the interaction with the leaf and the baseball and how it was different for both of them.
Hmm.
It doesn't make sense. I mean, not
It's in
really, and
paths.
obviously in our turn, but it's paths, and it's you know it it's kind of like a dream state, if you will. So I think it's fine, and if anything, it really was impactful to see them just hold objects that matter to them,
Yeah.
uh, especially that baseball. I mean, that was
Yeah.
that hit home. Well, no pun intended
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
me.
totally. Absolutely. So good. And something so when I read the chapter the first time, and when we see the other Titan shifters appear behind Zeke, like
Hmm.
the first time there, we see Ymir, like the Freckles Ymir, and we see
Hmm.
the Galliard brothers. We
Mm.
see Aaron Kruger, Grisha, and Xavier. That's basically every Jaw, Beast, and Attack Titan that we have seen as characters in the story. So my initial thoughts when I just saw that page, I was like, okay, is there some kind of correlation, like something specifically about those three specific titans, like the Jaw,
Oh.
Attack, and Beast? It was like because that was the only ones we saw like there, and I think also, I guess we see Bertolt arriving underneath there,
Hmm.
but we didn't know that was Bertolt at the time.
Right.
So it wasn't until they kind of cut back to that again, and there were Bertolt was there, and it wasn't, well, by then we knew what it was about. That it wasn't specifically about any specific kinds of titans, but I had that thought at first. I was like, what could that be about? But yeah. Oh yeah, and I saw someone point out really kind of meaningless, but I thought it was a really interesting thing that well, obviously we've seen a lot of Titan designs in these last couple of chapters,
Hmm.
and apparently uh, the Beast Titans have, I don't know if all of them or a lot of them, but they've been designed after, like, based on the 12 animals of the Chinese zodiac.
Okay.
Well, you got Zeke being the monkey already,
Hmm.
and we saw in this chapter we saw that Xavier was a ram,
Mm.
and we saw like an ox in a previous chapter. We have seen a bunny in a previous chapter. We saw a dog in this chapter, and I think maybe we saw a rat as well in this chapter. So yeah, I just thought I think that's a really cool little Easter egg, I guess, from Isioma.
Hmm.
I really like that.
Yeah. I think it's really cool that we got to see Xavier's Titan. We were
Yeah,
always like wondering what it could be, but I think it's cool. I think it's uh, cool to see the ram horns, or whatever.
yeah,
I I think it shows to me that it wasn't so much that his Titan was useless per se. It was more so that he just wasn't a good fighter. He was more of a researcher. You know what I mean? I
right.
I, I remember some people were saying that oh, his Titan must have been really lame, or the beast ability, whatever, must have been lame. And I never, I mean, it could have been, but I was always wondering if it was just his personality, or just who he was and abilities, rather than the Titan itself.
Right.
And I think that this kind of proves that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, absolutely. Because well, I don't know. In general, I think it's just strange because he was shown to fight pretty well in this chapter, or at
True.
least his Titan form anyway. Uh, so I mean, I don't know. I'm still a little bit stumped by it, but what the hell?
Ah, whatever.
I don't mind too much. But what was really nice to see here when we get back into the real world action, when the Titans finally, start fighting with them, we see Bertolt saving Annie.
Mm.
I was like, yay!
Berto protecting his crush.
Yeah, that was like
Aww.
such a sweet little thing he does from beyond the grave, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and by the way, and I know I'm not saying this is like afterlife stuff, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of saying it's kind of afterlife stuff. you know,
Well, I know
sort of
I
ish.
know Afterlife people are gonna, ride the bandwagon and say it's totally Afterlife, but it's paths.
It is.
It's it's more like purgatory, if anything. I know purgatory is different, but it's it's not the same thing, especially since these spirits, lack of a better word, are not able to talk to Aaron or not Aaron, or Armin or
Mm,
Zeke. They never
yeah.
actually say anything. But whereas if we where the afterlife theory originally started with Hanji, I'm pretty sure that Irvin said something, right?
I think so. But yeah, this is definitely not that kind of afterlife. Like I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
definitely not. But I still think it is in a way, it's like some sort of afterlife. Like I don't know. I'm not saying these people are conscious. They're dead.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they're not actually there fighting alongside them technically. But I think they still have some of those instincts,
Yeah,
that these Titan shifters had when they were alive. Um, so yeah.
yeah. I mean, I guess that's my thought is that it's just it's just a paths thing that
Right. Yeah.
like it's not it's not so much a a spiritual afterlife, but anywho, I still think it's really cool that this happened. I remember when we were first getting into this battle a few chapters ago, we were
Mm.
wondering, oh, are there are the spirits still in there? Or, are
Mm.
they fighting? Like we were even wondering if there was bodies in there. I think for a time,
Yeah.
but I as the chapter went on, I just thought, no, they're just being controlled by Ymir the whole time, and I
Mm.
think to an extent that's true, but I didn't before this chapter. I didn't think the the previous Titan holders would be able to, you know, interact or come back in the way that they did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but the biggest hint was Bertolt crying in Armin's thoughts. So that
Yeah.
should have been a giveaway, but I just wasn't sure. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
it didn't seem plausible at the time.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, with Zeke's powers, I guess it was possible.
Right, but it's always easy to say in hindsight that, oh, that was such a dead giveaway, like when really,
Mm-hmm.
like, it's usually not that obvious with these hints and stuff. It becomes obvious when you actually get to what it was leading up to. That's when it becomes obvious a lot of the time.
That's true. That's true.
I think.
But I'm okay with this. Like it's not like they're coming back to life per se. It's just
No,
their consciousness. Well,
there's subconsciousness.
subconsciousness, I guess.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean it's Path C, so it's gonna be it's like supposed to be kind of psychedelic and weird.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
I was a bit surprised by it at first. Like I didn't really know. Like I didn't feel like there was a logic to how it worked. But then after just giving it a little more thought, I kind of understood it better. And I don't think there's anything. I don't think there's really any kind of stretch about this at all. Personally, I think it all makes sense given what we know about Titan powers and stuff.
Yeah. And from speaking from a kind of a fandom perspective, I
Mm,
think this is nice for those people who are huge Warrior fans. Because a lot of them have died, obviously.
yeah.
So to see the Galliard brothers and uh, Freckle Ymir and Bertolt
Yeah.
all back, I think that's kind of like healing in a way
Yeah.
for some of the Warriors. Obviously, they're not alive; they're not coming back. But I think some I think some people could get a little emotional watching that. I mean, just as
Right.
Peek and Reiner getting a bit emotional, I think.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an encore for these characters, kind of.
Yeah, an encore. I agree. Yeah.
When they're fighting the Okapi Titan, my favorite part about that was seeing Levi holding onto Gabby to help her like get a steady aim. Like that was so sweet.
He's so good with kids.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, it was great that Gabby got to do something, especially
Yeah.
especially since last chapter they were like, ah, you couldn't hit anything from here, or at least Levi, maybe Levi was saying that. I'm not quite
I
sure,
think I think Levi said something about that. Yeah.
but I think it was cool to see that,
Uh-huh.
give them something to do.
Yeah.
When Mikasa gets Armin out,
Mm.
the Okapi kind of ejects its tongue
Uh-huh.
right into Armin's leg, like through the flesh and bone. Like, what in the world? Can
Uh-huh.
Okapi do that? Cause that's horrifying. There's no way.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of disturbing.
When will his suffering end?
I thought Armin was done getting tongued, but
Uh,
guess not.
right? Yeah. Oh, golly. But hey, Connie did something. He did something. He cut the tongue.
Yes, exactly. And Mikasa pulled it out afterwards, which was
Oh, I know.
I love that bit.
Oh. Ah.
I want to see that in the anime, and just
Oh my
how the tongue
gosh.
kind of just like wobbles and stuff. I want to
Oh.
see that.
It's you and ow at the same time.
Yeah,
Ow, yow.
absolutely.
But the
Yeah.
fact that Armin's talking through that is also just
Oh yeah.
oh. Oh. Anyway, I'm glad we're done with the Okapi. I mean, it was fun while it lasted, and the jokes and memes were great, but no more. No more
Yeah.
tongue action
Probably.
for Armin, right?
Yeah.
But Annie got her man.
Exactly.
Annie caught him.
She
She
caught
got her
him.
man.
And that was honestly like I just feel like in Annie's expressions there, like, don't we see her? Yeah, we see her face. And like she's so happy kind of to see him again. I feel.
Yeah,
So
I
I think
agree.
that's so nice. And then seeing the Titans come, like the other Titans, like I love seeing Kruger just cracking another Titan's neck, like back over his own back.
That's so
Like
cool.
looks just like when he cracked the boat, when he
Yes, yes.
revealed himself to Grisha. I think that was a really cool little reference. And Grisha's Titan is just punching everybody. I love it.
Oh gosh, madman.
Hell yeah.
Swear he's like been hiding up in the mountains in a cabin. Just leave me alone.
Take this.
Do you want to talk about this moment for Levi, or do you want to talk about the flashback or the Armin and Zeke kind of flashback?
Let's
How do you want to?
let's talk with our start with Armin and Zeke.
Okay.
Since the Levi thing is concluded a little after that. Armin says that all Eldians are connected because Ymir wanted something from them. How do you interpret that?
So I actually I have a few thoughts. Um, what does she want? Does she want love, freedom, family, a rebirth? Kind of a retry. I honestly I have no idea. It kind of goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. Is it, yeah, is it that she just wants everyone to have this connection for familial purposes? But at the same time, I find that hard when no one can really access that. Is she trying to somehow reach out to her, offspring? Because they're all her offspring technically, right? If they have the
I
Titan
think
power,
yeah, I think yeah any Eldian or
right?
well technically subject of Ymir, all
Subject to Mir.
subjects of Ymir are direct descendants of her, and I
Mm-hmm.
think by extent like that just happens to be all Eldians by now because it's been so long, and so basically all Eldians are subjects of Ymir.
There you go. So, is it her reaching out to the subjects of Ymir in hopes that someone saves her from this, endless torment? But then again, Aaron already maybe did that, but maybe there's more to be done. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the only things I could think of, and somehow it ending in her being reborn or just killed off. In well, killed off. I mean, she's already dead, but letting her existence just disappear instead
Yeah.
of being trapped in paths.
Hmm.
I think those are my main thoughts. I don't know if you have any other better thoughts.
Well, I kind of agree with your last thing about her wanting to, well, reaching out for help, sort of. But if that's the case, then I much more prefer for her and paths to disappear rather than her being reborn. Personally,
Mm,
I guess I'm not fully against the being reborn thing, but I don't know, that just doesn't feel like a thing that has been a thing. I don't know. I think it would be maybe a little bit out of place, but I could be
hmm.
way wrong about that. Anyway, I think though that my best bet on this is just that it's about family. Kind of, she is connecting her people and to kind of to try to form these kinds of bonds, like
Yeah,
family bonds, which is something that she never had in her life. I think
yeah.
that's something like that, maybe.
I think that's a strong possibility. Yeah, it's either that or her somehow reaching out for help.
Mm,
Um, but with the family thing, we do see her in this chapter, or at least from Zeke's point of view, we see her looking at some sort of wedding or family marriage thing. I guess that does happen in 121 as well,
yeah,
but we don't get this angle of it. Um, so that could be alluding to the fact that that's something that she desired, with just having a normal family life, not one of a slave.
yeah,
Um, but again, I don't. That's something that I don't think you could just say, "Oh, she wanted family," and just move on. You gotta really show it, or there's got to be some sort of meaning behind it, explanation for it, and not just, "Oh yeah, she wanted family." Oh, that makes sense. Like, does it though? So that's my opinion, and that's why I think in the next two chapters we should get something about that. But
yeah. I hope so as well. Definitely.
mhm. But then again, why does she? Why is she okay with rumbling the world and
Yeah.
and all that? And let me give you another question. One that I didn't get to ask earlier. Why is she letting this happen? Why is she letting Armin talk to Zeke in paths? Does she not have the ability to stop that? I mean, she's basically the one that caused it to happen by having Armin lose his consciousness. It wasn't necessarily Armin who forced himself into paths, was it?
No, I don't. Yeah,
He just kind of
exactly.
stumbled into there, and so it makes it seem like she wanted or expected that to happen.
Yeah, I'm also a little bit baffled there. Like, I don't know exactly how to interpret this. Because it definitely, like, before this chapter, it seemed like she was completely, set on doing the rumbling and, doing that with Aaron
Yeah.
and just getting that job done. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
in this chapter, we see her in paths, not really, like, she doesn't seem to mind whatever, when Armin and Zeke and the other dead Titan shifters are there. And yeah, I don't know. It's a bit
It's odd
strange. Mm, mm.
because it definitely feels like she's trying to kill or harm everyone else. Um, I
Yeah.
I don't see what the point is, unless she's really trying to push him to do something. But it doesn't. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll get an explanation for it. Maybe we won't. Maybe
Yeah,
Ymir would just be this complicated figure we just never understand.
maybe. I mean, she has, like, part of her, has been portrayed as a god in a way. And I think
Hmm.
with gods, it's kind of, I feel like that's kind of a thing with a lot of gods and a lot of mythologies, is that we as mere mortals can't
Right.
really comprehend their way of thinking and
Very true.
stuff like that. If that is the case, then I guess fine, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, but in the scene here, the flashback into Paths here, Zeke telling Saber that he wouldn't mind being born again. That was one of the most
Oh
powerful
man.
parts in this chapter, I think.
Oh, that really gets me.
Yeah, and also thanking his father and referring to him as dad.
Yeah.
That was also like a really nice little kind of send off for those like between those two characters, I think.
Hmm. Forgiving may be the wrong word, but I'll just say it anyway. For basically forgiving his father
Mm,
is, yeah, I think it's powerful.
so powerful. And Armin and Zeke talking to their Titan predecessors like here was also
Oh yeah,
just
that's
that fact was also really really nice.
yeah really powerful there too. And like I was saying before, I think this is good closure for those Warrior fans, especially Bertolt fans. I mean, I,
Mm,
this is as much as Bertolt as you're gonna get, I think.
yeah,
But I think this is a really nice send off for him personally, or send off. Send off may be the wrong word, but a nice touch to cap it off, I guess.
yeah, yeah, and kind of honor him one last time.
Honor him. Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
And I love how, just moving on, how Zeke is out of paths and
yeah,
he's just looking at everything and he says, "Oh, how beautiful this is." If only I had realized that earlier.
yeah,
But it was still so powerful to see him just take it all in, and I don't know, I guess kind of regret what he did, but at the same time enjoy the moment. So
yeah.
I really appreciated that.
It was great. Like just he appeared, he comes up there, and like only moments before his death, he's finally able to see the beauty in the cruel world that they live in.
Mm-hmm.
And like for him to see that, I don't know, man, it's such a huge thing. And yeah, I absolutely love it.
And then Levi does the job. Woo!
Yeah, yeah. Were you was that a satisfying thing to you?
Oh my gosh, you have no idea.
Okay.
I
Okay.
from so I one I love how there's zero hesitation in it,
Mm.
and two I did not I didn't I'll be honest with you, I didn't expect to be as satisfied that Levi basically did the deed,
Hmm.
because before I was unsure if he was even going to get the chance to kill him. I mean, it's like, maybe he doesn't need to do that, but the fact that he did that, the fact that he got to keep his promise to Irvin and all those people, it was just so good for him to do that and to see that. It was just like this. How do I explain it? It's like you have this incredibly hard level or incredibly hard task that you just can't get past. You try, you try, you try, and for some reason it's beyond you, even though you know you're better than that. But then you finally do it after all these years or moment. You know, it's just so satisfying to see that. And I didn't need any talk between them. They're not friendly with each other. I mean, even Zeke kind of teased it. I didn't want to see you or whatever he
Yeah.
says. Uh, but I think like having this quick kill is just perfect for their interaction and basically what Levi would do anyway. I mean, I think this is on point for him.
Absolutely. I think it's a great moment. Like the zero hesitation for Levi makes a lot of sense considering how many times in the past he has failed
Mm-hmm.
to do that to get that job done. Um, but and this may sound weird, but
Okay.
I I didn't really find it satisfying, but
Oh,
I still really liked it. Like I liked the fact that
huh.
it felt unsatisfying to me.
Interesting.
Sort of. It's weird. It's like I feel
I
like
can see what you're saying.
it's like after all this build up, because this is a thing that's been going on ever since the Return to Shiganshina arc. This rivalry
Mm-hmm.
between these two characters, and this hatred kind of between these two characters. We have all this build up, all this back and forth, and failed opportunities, and now Levi finally does it. But I think I was more affected by Zeke's character growth in the moment than I was affected by Levi's action right there.
It was both for me. I love the character growth he had and all that, and I was really enjoying it. And then Levi comes in and does that. I was like, oh, I was like double excited. I don't know. It's strange. Like you think if I was so moved by Zeke's growth there, I would be maybe upset with how he dies so quickly after that.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't even think it's comedic per se. I just think
No, 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 no.
it fits well with who Levi is and kind of concludes Zeke's story in a satisfying way, in my opinion.
Right. No, I'm satisfied with it. It's just like I don't know. It's the deed of Levi killing Zeke. I loved it exactly the way it happened. I adore it, but I didn't get that satisfying. Oh, he did it! Like I didn't get that basically. But I loved the way it happened, the way I felt about it. But I could be
Mm-hmm.
wrong. But I felt
Mm-hmm.
like it might have even been Isayama's intention for this moment to not feel as satisfying as it, for example, might have felt back in Return to Shiganshina arc or in the Marley arc or even like earlier this arc in the or back in the forest where before they blew up together. Like if Levi had killed Zeke in one of those instances, I think it would have felt more satisfying. But I feel like in this moment, I feel like it was almost meant to be unsatisfying, both for us as readers and for Levi, because in this moment Zeke isn't he's not the big bad. He, sure he's the key to Eren being able to do all the things that he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So his death is ultimately necessary in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Because of everything we've learned about Zeke and because of how much we've started to and been able to sympathize with him, or at least a lot of people, and especially this chapter, but even before that, ever since we learned his backstory back when they blew up on the horse carriage,
Mm-hmm.
he has been more or less a relatable character in some weird way.
Yeah.
So I think that makes it not as like booyah like satisfying, but still satisfying, I guess.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. The writer ha- trying to make it unsatisfying for to get the reader to feel that way.
Huh.
Um, you know, yeah, I mean that's good if he has that intention and whatnot. I'm not saying he doesn't have that intention, but for me, I don't I don't see this as unsatisfying. Honestly, I see it as he finally did it. I just think of everything that Levi's been through
Hmm.
in doing this one task that he's been given to do, and he has not been able to do it. I mean, it has to have been eating at him. And so I guess
Yeah.
I had been thinking about that for a while. And even though the focus was not on him at all this chapter until that point, it was still in the back of my mind. So seeing this actually happen is is why I went, yes, you go, Levi. I just because
Nice.
I felt like I knew what this character was going through, and it was hard on him. To me, it was satisfying, but I could be just
Hmm.
misreading the room. So it could
Ah.
be that Isayama is trying to make it anticlimactic and unsatisfying, because to be fair, it's not as grandiose and lack of a better word, epic than what happened in the forest or what happened in Shiganshina.
Right.
So
Uh,
I will give you that.
yeah, but I thought it was interesting how you had like basically the reverse reaction to this, and that there has been a lot of instances in this story where a lot of people in the fandom react like very differently to different things that happen, and
True.
that alone I think is a really awesome thing about this story is how
Yeah.
different people will react really differently to different things.
Yeah. I
So
agree.
yeah, I don't think like there's a correct way necessarily to interpret
No,
that.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure sometimes writers aren't. In some cases, they're not trying to get a specific reaction, but they know that this will get a reaction of sorts.
Right, yeah.
It's great to see that, or get confirmation that it was Zeke was the key basically, and that the rumbling
Yeah.
has stopped. So I think it kind of speeds up from here. How everything goes down. It's like one step after the other,
Hmm.
um, to the explosion. But it wouldn't have been possible if they didn't stop Zeke, or kill Zeke first. So I think that's important to know at the very least. And
Yeah.
also with the rumbling stopping, I think those people on the cliff, not everyone obviously, but I think at least to where the baby is, I think they might be safe.
I don't know, man. I think a lot of the world is already gone to shit.
I don't think so. I really think not to. I'm not trying to like downplay the destruction that Aaron did, not at all. But I don't think it's as widespread as we might be thinking. It's pretty. It's fairly widespread where the continent is, I think. But I don't. The rumbling has stopped where it is, and we see it in tandem with. Uh, was it 2 or 3 chapters ago? With the people in Fort Salta. So
Mm.
while the Titans have been moving closer, I think this the amount of time that has passed has not been long enough for those Titans to reach that baby. So I think they might be, at least some of them might be okay at the end. Or am I
So yeah,
just
so
crazily
maybe
optimistic?
I maybe on both of those things, but I based on what we have seen, I feel like most of well, if if we use the real world map because well, Titan Attack on Titan's map is basically a upside down mirrored version of our map.
Hmm.
Uh, it seems like almost all of Africa, Europe, and Asia has been trampled at this point
I'm
because
still unsure about that.
we saw like Asian areas, we saw London, we and obviously Africa is the closest to where they started, so it makes sense for large portions of that to have been trampled.
That's true. That's
So I
true.
feel like those three continents are mostly trampled, probably.
Yeah, that's fair. I forgot about the London part. That's pretty, well, I guess in this world, that's pretty far south.
Yeah,
So
right, yeah.
yeah, if they're all the way there, then maybe there is or more destruction that I'm playing up. But I don't know. I mean, at the very least, I don't think they killed the baby.
All
Um,
right.
they haven't gotten there yet. Just based on like the timing. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
uh,
I'm not saying it's definitely dead. I don't know.
yeah. I guess we can't say for sure.
However, even if yeah, Zeke is dead, so these wall titans are no longer being controlled, but they're still titans. They are pure titans now. They are gonna go after humans and try to eat them, like any normal pure titan would.
I don't actually. I don't think so because
Why not?
these titans have always have either been stationary or they've been controlled. I think they're just going to stand still,
These
just
were
like they did with the wall.
why though? The only reason they stood still inside the wall was because they were in darkness, and titans don't get energy in darkness.
True, that's true.
I
That's
feel
a good
like
point.
I don't feel like there's reason to suspect that they are any different from any other pure titan, other than the size, obviously.
But why would they stop though? Why would they stop?
Well, they were no longer like suddenly they got control by themselves. So I guess it took like a couple seconds to like, be like, oh, this is what's going on. Kind of. I don't know exactly, but um,
They would have started moving. They would have started just going all over the
well,
place.
we only see like one clear panel of that, right? Like, which is basically the moment they regained control over themselves. So I feel like it's hard to say, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. I'm under the impression that these, at least the colossal titans, they're just going to stand still. These titans specifically, just because that they were once wall titans anyway. And I understand that
Mm,
they were covered by a wall thing or whatever, but
yeah.
I think that it's because their main original purpose was just to be walls that I think that they don't act the same way as other wild titans.
Hmm.
But that's my opinion. At the very least, I could be totally wrong, and maybe maybe they will see that chaos in the coming last chapters. But anyway,
Yeah.
just I guess
Right.
don't mean to rain on your
No, no,
parade.
no, no, no. It's fair. It's fair. I definitely disagree with you, but it's fair.
Mm, it's
And
hey, that's fine.
um, however, there's one thing about this that I got a little bit um confused by. So yeah, the Wall Titans. It's clear that they are no longer like they are not no longer being controlled. But the Titans on Aaron's back, they seem to still be
Yeah,
moving. So I'm like,
I was a little.
what's up with that? And even
Yeah,
after his head was blown off, the Titans that Zeke summoned are still moving, you know. So I wonder
yeah.
how does that all work? You know, like right at the very end, you see like Bertolt
Mm-hmm.
holding the three Titans and Xavier holding Armin. But at that point, Zeke is dead and Aaron's head has been severed. So I feel like at that point, how is that happening then?
I thought the same thing. I said it's odd that the Titans are still fighting even though Zeke is dead.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, I mean, I guess does it really matter too much? I mean, it would have been nice to have some consistency, but at the same
Hmm.
time, if they all the Titans had stopped, I guess it would have been a maybe less climactic if they just had to get to Aaron's head and not worry about the other Titans.
Hmm.
And also, you could argue that Ymir was the one who was in control of the Titans that were on Aaron's back since she
Yeah.
made them. So perhaps because Ymir and Aaron are still connected somehow, even without Zeke, that she can still do that, but because Zeke's not there, the rumbling's not possible. I don't,
Right.
I don't know. It seems a bit of a stretch, but
Yeah. Somehow, if there's something we're missing, and if we have any listeners, at least on YouTube, because you can comment on YouTube, if anyone listening on YouTube has any ideas that maybe we're missing, please enlighten us. But yeah, it seems a bit odd.
mm-hmm, indeed.
Would you like to talk about Jean's big moment now?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
I mean, it's like one page with
It
John there,
is.
but it's nice. It's like it's a callback to what he used to call how we used to refer to Aaron back in the training days, and still with a lot of emotion behind it. Like he doesn't want to have to do this, but he knows he has to, so he does it anyway. And yeah, man, I wasn't expecting it to be Jean, but
I wasn't either.
I really liked it anyway. Like this felt so good.
It was a good moment for him.
Mm.
Um, I think that him and Connie didn't get a whole lot of time to shine, especially in this latter part of this arc.
Mm.
But it was nice that Jean got to do more as we get closer to the end, and seeing him be the one to detonate the bomb. I'm okay with that. I think I was expecting like Peak or Levi to do it, but there's well, Levi would have been cool too, but I think there's some more emotional weight with John doing it,
Yeah.
and giving that line as well.
I loved that so much. And it really just reminds me of their whole history together. Like from the
Mm-hmm.
start how they butted heads so much in the beginning and then eventually, they became friends and everything they've done along the journey. Like, man, it got me really emotional and be like, "Oh man, so good." And then obviously it followed after that, we get the big ol' centipede coming out there
Whew.
as the characters had anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
And man, that's spooky.
Yeah, it's creepy, man. It's a scary thing. It's
Hmm.
huge too.
It
Ooh.
is. It's so huge. But Reiner though, oh my god,
Yeah, that was
like
such a good moment.
this is his moment. Like this is the heroic moment that he deserves.
Hmm.
Right here, he is preventing the centipede from reattaching itself to Aaron. So we I know we speculated a few chapters ago now that since Reiner's mom, quote unquote, saw Reiner die,
Hmm.
like being eaten by the colossal. Obviously, it didn't happen, but from her point of view, that's what it looked like, and that we speculated that based on that, Reiner is going to come out of it alive in the end, and actually, and his mother will be happy to see him alive because she was under the impression that he was dead.
Mm.
Um, but I'm not really as convinced of that anymore. With this happening right now, right here with Reiner doing this, I feel like this might be it for him.
Uh,
Like because like for me, I feel like I would be satisfied with this kind of death for Reiner.
sure.
Um, that said, though, I want him to survive. Like
Yeah.
honestly, but I think as far as worthy death goes, I think this is it.
Yeah, this would definitely be a worthy death for him, tackling and protecting the world in that sense. Well, not
Yeah,
tackling the centipede, protecting the world.
he is a shield protecting the world right now, protecting the world from Aaron coming back into and continuing the rumbling or whatever. Maybe I mean I guess he couldn't anyway,
Right, he couldn't
but
anyway, but I think it's more so getting the centipede and killing that
yeah,
potentially. I think
yeah.
that's he's protecting the world from that. And who knows? Like maybe it's killing the centipede will have some good repercussions, but we can talk about that later. What
Mm.
what I want to say is Peak brings up the point that he should be okay even with the nuclear power of Armin's Titan. He should still be okay. At
Uh-huh.
least that's what Peak hypothesizes. So I'm thinking that he'll survive this uh, with his armor. I think he'll be safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Or, well, not absolutely, but we have seen him survive like Berthold's colossal nuke back in the Return to
Hmm.
Gigantian arc. So we know that his Titan has the ability to withstand that. He has taken quite a bit of a beating now, though, so maybe he doesn't have enough armor to withstand it potentially. So like
That's true.
I'm very like uncertain on that right now. I feel like it could really go either way, and either way I'd probably be rather satisfied.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that. Being satisfied either way.
Uh-huh.
Okay, don't hate me, but I'm liking this Jean and Peak interaction we got going on. Pretty much throughout this chapter, it's been some pretty good stuff. Not gonna
uh,
lie.
yeah, throughout this whole fighting sequence, sort of.
Hmm. So I
Uh-huh.
mean, it could be nothing. It really could. But I don't know. Like, hey, maybe afterwards, they're like, hey, the meaning of life is to multiply. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's all it ties together. He tried that line with Mikasa, it didn't work out, so he went over to Peak. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Um,
Uh-huh.
so no, I think for me personally, I've seen more people get on this ship, and I'm totally okay with it. I mean, obviously it's so minor right now, so you could just tie it to fighting for the same cause, not so much a potential romance or anything like that. So I know maybe it's a bit of a stretch, but at the same time, there's signs that are there, or at least signs in the sense that Peak meets his likings in women, and they fight well together. So it's, or at least they seem to have good synergy. Anyway, I'll stop now. Well, one last thing I'll say is I have bought tickets for this ship, so I'm ready to
Yeah.
set sail.
So I've heard, yeah. Hey, what if Isayama just like says like screw the final panel that I shared. The final panel is gonna be Jean and Peak fan service. Maybe not.
I no Now, I think a lot of people would be upset about that.
No shit. Yeah.
But I don't know. That'd be kind of nice.
Hmm.
Um, Besides that, I think it was really cool to see that final pose with the Titans that helped them out.
Yeah.
I know it's a bit theatrical and probably a bit cheesy. Maybe has some kind of Evangelion a Da Vinci painting kind of a kind of a vibe, but I like it.
Dude, same.
Just him holding the Titans in his hands like that. I think it's really cool
Hmm.
and just beautiful in that way. It's better than them just being randomly placed. Um, if not, maybe a little less realistic, but still, I think it's nice. I mean, what does it matter? This is the final. This is the final. This is the third chapter from the end. It's come on.
It's the
You
final
gotta make it
volume.
special. Follow volume. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like it. I think, yeah, sure, maybe like getting into position like that isn't the most realistic thing ever, but hey, it looks rad. It looks
It
like like
does.
if this was like the cover of like a music album, like I would probably buy it without even knowing what music it was.
True. It's pretty. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Great way to put it. Who's the kid in Kasaver's hand? Is that supposed to be Zeke, or is it Ymir?
No, that's Armin.
Oh, it's Armin.
Yeah, because Armin stays behind to blow up.
Oh, oh, that makes sense. I always wondered who the heck that was. I
Oh,
couldn't tell because he's so tiny.
right. Yeah, yeah. No, I feel like it's got to be Armin.
Yeah, you're right. That makes sense. It makes a lot more sense than it being like a kid version of someone else.
It's like young Zeke.
Yeah, young
Uh,
Zeke is like, why? What are you doing here? Whatever.
that would be weird.
There,
Uh,
paths. It's paths.
yeah, exactly. Everything's possible now.
No, but that makes
So,
a lot more sense.
mhm.
I like Chad Falco. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
his side profile is such it looks just like the meme, the Chad meme, man.
Oh yeah,
It's so great. He's like the best looking Titan there is. My goodness.
dude. Like underneath that beak shell, like it looks like his regular face, just bigger, kind of. But yeah, very nice.
Seeing both Mikasa and Armin's faces at the end, oof,
Yeah,
it got me.
yeah. I think it's
Um,
great to have them specifically being focused on right there.
yeah, I really need that closure for both of them with Aaron. I mean, I love the fact that Armin took the initiative and says goodbye to Aaron, and he's willing to potentially kill him.
Hmm.
But I feel for these guys because they have to go through that. At the same time, there needs to be one more part with them and Aaron. So
Yeah.
yeah, I personally think it's a given that it will happen. Um, Maybe I'm too optimistic on that. I just I trust Isayama to deliver, but I at the same time I'm desperately wanting that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I guess moving into prediction talk.
Hmm.
One thing that I've thought of here is that basically for the next chapter, I think it's gonna start with everyone being transported into paths,
Oh.
like for one last time, or well, maybe not everyone, maybe only Mikasa and Armin, maybe also Reiner, or
Mm.
maybe someone else. I don't know. At least Mikasa and Armin though. They will
Mm.
be transported into paths like immediately, like this second, like the same second that this chapter ends, pretty much.
Hmm.
They will be suddenly in paths,
Okay.
and they will have like their last talk with Eren there,
Hmm.
and they will
Hmm.
have time to say goodbye to him, and anything that needs explaining might be explained there, at least regarding Eren himself. Uh,
Hmm.
and I think Eren is probably going to be very sad, and we're going to get the "see you later" line from Mikasa in there, and then they're going to come back out of paths, and we're still going to be basically right here in time, right where this chapter
Hmm.
ended.
Mm-hmm.
and then the blast is going to ultimately kill Eren.
Mm-hmm.
But they had that like last millisecond in paths together,
Mm-hmm.
sort of.
Oh, that'd be so sad.
And yeah, so I think Eren is gonna die there. I think the Centipede is gonna die there, and I think maybe also Reiner is gonna die there. If that, like, yeah, maybe sort of. But I hope Reiner doesn't die. But I'm still definitely fine with him dying there. And I think after that, if the Centipede dies, then paths might also cease to exist. Um, and then that was like literally like the last millisecond of paths existing that they got to talk to Eren. And I wonder if that would probably also make Titan powers cease to exist, maybe if paths doesn't exist. Um, but I'm not like super clear on all of that, how that would work exactly. But that's anyway, like that's a rough idea for one of the outcomes that I could see.
First off, when you're describing the saying goodbye to Eren and then coming back into reality and
Huh.
it, the explosion and everything, I just thinking of that possibility really got me choked up. But I know Eren's done terrible things, and I know that
Hmm.
he can't really live. I don't know. It's hard for me to see a thing where he doesn't die, but at the same time, I've loved Eren for so long, and just to see him go down like that would be so tragic. I mean, it's a sadness that I wouldn't be upset about per se. Like it's just the story that he's telling. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And if that's the path he goes down, and it's satisfying me not the right word, but it ties things up, then I think even if it's sad, it'll be a good story. Not every story has to end happily.
hmm
Um, so that's a thought that is going through my mind. But my other thought was, at the end of your thought, you kind of touched on it anyway, but let me
oh,
just bring it up.
yeah,
Uh, you make a good point in the paths happening right now because I find it hard to believe any sort of paths happening if the centipede is still or is dead. That has to be the key to it all, to the entire Titan power thing.
probably, yeah.
So yeah, if there's gonna be a path moment, it would be there. At the same time, something about just going straight to paths and not being next to Aaron's actual body. Well, he's just a head, so maybe it doesn't matter. But not
Presumably,
not
yeah.
being physically with Aaron just feels a little cheap to me. For them, I would really love it if. I mean, at this point, it might be too late um, to have that sort of thing.
Hmm.
Uh, but let's say, just hypothetically speaking, let's say the explosion happens, the centipede dies, and everyone on the back of Falco is able to get down to where Aaron's head is or used to be. If there is a chance for Mikasa to interact with Aaron then, Mikasa and Armin to interact with Aaron then, I would be much more satisfied with that than just a conversation in paths. Does that make
Hmm.
sense?
Uh, I mean, yeah, I definitely see like that would make it feel more real. So I definitely see
Mm-hmm.
that. The only reason why I don't see that happening right now is because, as far as we know, at least, Eren seems to be just a head
Mm,
with
right.
on a spine of some sort, uh, and yeah, so that was why I in my prediction went with like having a paths interaction action instead, where we would have Eren would look normal and he would be functioning, because I don't even know if he has any kind of consciousness as he is in the real world right now.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm not sure either. It is a little odd to me that Reiner was able to get survive having his, was it his head cut off, or he had something cut
He
off.
no, Levi stuck his sword through his neck,
Ah, that's what it was. Wasn't all the way
but it was at still at least like it was. Yeah, it was cut straight through the neck, which would have killed him
normally,
normally.
but then he transferred his consciousness somewhere else. Correct.
Hmm.
Um, I just obviously he healed from that. So why can't Aaron grow back his body? Is what I'm curious about. I mean, obviously we've seen his head in that, I forget which chapter, 131 or 130 or something. We we saw a glimpse of his head just floating, sitting there.
Yeah.
But why? But why hasn't his body grown back?
Well, I think
It
it's.
doesn't make sense to me.
I think a brain, the brain and the heart are like the two most vital organs, and I think those need to be connected probably in order to be alive.
Hmm.
You need to have both in order to be like functionally alive.
Mm-hmm.
And in this moment, Aaron doesn't have a heart. Like he doesn't have anything but a head. I don't think he can live for more than a few seconds at most with only a
Mm.
head. Um, in fact, like I don't even know. Like let's say the explosion doesn't actually like cause his death here.
Mm-hmm.
I still think he would be dead by the time the others would swoop down there because he's just a head inside of a head right now.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, well, oh yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with that. I mean, that's all for us, as far as we know. Yeah, that's the case. Um, but as far as but I guess what I'm saying is that, what if there's the chance he's able to grow back his body, um, inside that head, just like any other Titan shifter who's able to grow back their limbs,
Yeah.
inside the body. Um, so I don't know. But you bring an excellent point. Without the heart and the brain, you can't really survive.
Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily saying that's what I'm trying to predict. I'm just saying what would be more satisfying, or what would be what
Mm.
I want to see happen, because as I was thinking about this and reading this chapter and seeing Mikasa there, I would really love. Well, love is the wrong word. It would be emotionally impactful and heartbreaking, but almost cathartic if Mikasa was the one to finish off Eren.
Like as a like kind of as a just putting it at him out of his misery because he's dying anyway, kind of
That or
thing.
just, he can't survive. He can't live in the world that he either nearly or
Mm.
partly or fully destroyed.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I think death might be the only option for him. But having Mikasa be the one to do that could be a really good moment. Well, good maybe
Maybe.
the wrong word, but anyway, that's what I'm thinking, and that's why having it all in paths would take away that possibility. So part of me is kind of apprehensive to it, but
Mm.
at the end of the day, as long as I get the interaction, I'll be fine. I guess I just wanted to put out there another possibility. Not saying it has a high probable chance, but just one that I would have liked to seen happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. But I do agree that, or I think you give an excellent point with going to paths right away, um, because without that centipede, it would be probably impossible to do.
Probably. Yeah. But then again, we don't technically know. Like at the beginning of this
Right, we don't
discussion,
know.
we talked about the idea of the centipede granting Ymir the ability to create paths and titans.
Mm,
So what if when the centipede dies, paths and titans still keep on existing like they had, just
mm-hmm.
without maybe without the like amplified powers of the founder. Like maybe that's like the only difference.
Or
Um,
what if the seed doesn't pass through? Like the people still have the Titan powers are still a thing, but those powers don't pass on to the future Eldian babies. You know what I mean?
oh, you
Like,
mean so paths disappear, but Titan powers don't?
well, not necessarily path disappears, but it ends. Like it stops connecting everybody. So everyone who is in paths already is connected,
Okay.
but because the centipede is gone, it can't continue to procreate, or it can't. Well, procreate is the wrong word. It can't continue to multiply.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
it is a possibility that I just thought of,
You're right. Yeah, I kind of like it.
but I don't know. I mean, we, who's to say? Who's to say?
Yeah. Yeah, but I was thinking, if Titan powers do remain,
Hmm.
then I think I can totally see Historia's child being born with the Beast Titan. If everything keeps going and functioning the way it has been.
Mm.
Uh, Not only do I think that would be a nice, like it would be interesting just to have that gimmick happen, because it's only something we've read about, like we've heard about, that Titans that die without being consumed, their powers are passed on to a newborn child. Like we've
Hmm.
never actually seen it happen, so that fact alone, just to see it happen, would be nice. But also, I think it would be especially nice seeing as Zeke so beautifully said in this chapter. He said, "I wouldn't mind being born once more."
Oh,
So obviously it wouldn't technically be him reborn, but it would, in a way, with his Titan being reborn in a newborn baby,
okay.
it would still be kind of reminiscent of that. And I think that would be really really nice.
That could be nice. You know my opinions on the whole baby getting the Titan powers. I don't think it needs to be addressed. I think it's fine the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I personally would rather see all the Titan powers gone, or at least not passed down to the children, because it gives more meaning to, as far as we know, the final line. Uh, Now you're free. Um,
Yeah,
I think being free from having Titan powers is worthy of that kind of line, especially when you're holding a baby like that. So
absolutely.
that's my opinion. I can't see why they would say that if he still has the Beast Titan inside of it.
I mean, it could
But
just be a flashback. Could just be
it could be a flashback.
Grisha holding Aaron,
You're right. It could be.
But
Uh,
yeah, it's hard to say.
I mean, like I've said before, it doesn't have to happen. The Titan power going away, in order to be a good ending. But I think it would be uh, impactful and important. But
Hmm.
maybe that's just me. Wouldn't it be terrible if Armin accidentally squished Aaron's head?
Squish. Oh, like he stepped on it.
Yeah. Or what
Yeah,
if, or I mean, yeah, like payback for all the rumbling you did. That's what you get. No,
right.
but what if he did it to the centipede? What if the explosion doesn't actually kill the centipede? So then he just squishes the centipede.
That actually would be really funny. Like it would be kind of ironic from the Centipede's point of view, or
Yeah,
well, not from its point of view, more from Aaron's point of view.
yeah.
But yeah, it would be interesting. Although this big blast, I feel like if the blast doesn't kill it, then I don't know if
A squishy will.
yeah. um, but yeah, I'm excited to see what's gonna happen here. I was also thinking about, like, well, we talked about all the wall titans right now, and like
Hmm.
you and I have some different ideas for what they will be like now that they aren't controlled anymore. But
Hmm.
regardless of that, I was thinking, if defeating the centipede does mean that it's the end of paths and titan powers completely,
Hmm.
then I think one of two things can happen to the wall titans, like to all of the pure titans. That either they just evaporate and disappear, they go
Hmm.
up in smoke, poof, gone, or
Hmm.
they revert back into the humans that they once were.
Hmm.
One of those options, I feel, if titan powers cease to exist, then all of the pure Titans will have well, one of those two things will happen to them probably. And I was thinking, if the latter happens, if they actually transform back into their human forms, then that would make it so that Connie's mom would actually go back to normal. And I think
Hmm.
that would bring that home nicely because, well, because she was brought back into the story in this arc, kind of like, oh, remember me, you know? And so I feel like maybe that, well, it was for this reason, for the fact that she will come back to normal when Connie comes back home to the island. She's going to be there and welcome him home or something. I don't know. Um, uh, I just think that that could be pretty nice if that happens. But I was also thinking that if paths and Titan powers cease to exist, that I think that could be a fitting end for Ymir, in a way. Well, where if that happens, she would basically also cease to exist. She wouldn't need to suffer any longer. She's been suffering
Yeah.
for almost 2,000 years. Well, much more than that if you take it like Path's time. Um, so if she just it wouldn't be her dying because technically she's already dead. But if everything that just disappears, then she would disappear with it, and that would bring her to peace in some way.
Yeah, I agree. That would definitely be a good ending for her. I don't know. Maybe I'm too forgiving, but I would personally like to see her get another chance at the life that she didn't really get.
Right.
Um, but I think that at the very least, the Titan powers ending would be great for her, and basically what she's been asking for, in my opinion. I guess going back to what she was trying to do, maybe it was to call for help, or maybe it
Mm.
was just a family. But either way, I agree with both of your potential predictions with what happens with the Titans.
Right.
Um, I could see it going either way. Uh, it would be very interesting to see all of those colossal Titans become humans.
Right.
Um, yeah, I wonder how that would go down. Um, and to that point, how with the state of the world and how it's been trampled, how does humanity go from here, or where do they go from here, and how are they gonna solve the alien hate? I mean, I'm sure they will, but it'll be interesting to see how that all is resolved, which I
Yeah.
think it will be eventually. Not this next chapter, but in the last chapter. Um, so I guess part of me is kind of hoping that they all do become humans, and we see that interaction with them. But at the same time, it's going to be kind of surreal. You
Yeah.
know, these people used to be these ginormous titans, and they killed hundreds of thousands of people, millions,
Yeah.
and now they're just normal people walking among us. Like it's got to be strange. It's got to be
Yeah,
strange.
if that happens, yeah. I mean, and these people were turned into Titans over 100 years ago as well. So like,
Yeah,
yeah, this is a lot of very strange things if that would happen.
indeed. Yeah,
But mm,
but I wouldn't mind also them just disappearing as well, or
right.
or going up in smoke,
Hmm.
kind of
Hmm.
kind of a situation. Going back to Reiner, this is what I wanted to say earlier.
Oh yeah.
Is I don't think the explosion is going to kill him. I think you could potentially still have that Helios moment, or
Halos.
Helos,
Yeah.
or not Helios, yeah, Helos,
Yeah.
the Helos moment where he could put something in the head of Aaron, because it's just that head is right there, and it's just so similar to that statue. I, I mean, not saying it needs to happen, and not, and I just
Yeah.
some of the pieces are there. The trident is not anymore, but maybe he can use. Maybe there'll be a bone that's still left over. So
Right, but no, but you're right. We have Aaron's severed head and we have Reiner there. So yeah, you're right.
yeah, I could be completely off on that. Just something that I wondered.
Yeah, like visually it could definitely be pretty cool,
Yeah,
but I don't know how it would work exactly.
right. Or why would it even happen?
Right.
Like, what's the point of stabbing the head other than to be, oh, I'm awesome? Like,
Yeah, just out of spite.
yeah.
I don't know.
I mentioned this in the Discord. I honestly don't really know what's going to happen from here. You mentioned paths, and I think that's one possibility, and definitely something that came to mind.
Hmm.
But you know, you never quite know. You never know what
Yeah.
Isayama exactly has planned. So could Aaron have some sort of rumbling trap card he has just waiting for this moment? I
Yeah.
I don't think so, but I'm open to that possibility. Um, can the Centipede withstand the blast? We don't know how durable this thing is,
Yeah.
and why. And as we've been hypothesizing, do the Titan powers disappear? There's still so many possibilities. I love how open ended this chapter is with this cliffhanger and just all sorts of emotions wrapped in one that we don't exactly know what's going to happen next, other than aftermath of this explosion.
Right.
So I'm incredibly excited to see what's next, and I just all I need is that Aaron, Mikasa, Armin talk, and I think I'll be pretty satisfied, really.
Yeah. I think it's been easy to kind of speculate on what's gonna happen immediately after this. Like I had a couple of different ideas for like what could happen regarding the wall titans and talking to Aaron, Patsy stuff, and like I've had ideas for that. But like in the long term, like after like you know after all that, I have had a very hard time coming out like figuring out like what could actually how is this all going to end. And I love that. I love that we are so close to the end, yet it's still so hard to predict it.
Yep.
And I also think that we are, you know, we're most likely done with the action for the whole story at this point,
Mm.
unless like the centipede somehow could reconnect with Aaron and shit goes down all over again.
Trap card or
But
whatever.
but I kind of doubt it at this point. But I guess it's a possibility technically. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Possibilities.
yeah. But I do think the action for the story is pretty much done. So it's I think it's perfect to have the last
Yeah.
two chapters focus on character interactions and to tie
Mm-hmm.
up loose ends. And yeah, I think it's perfect. I don't think it's going to feel rushed at all. I've
Mm-mm.
seen a lot of people being very worried about it going to be rushed, but honestly, well, Isayama has been planning out this story for such a long time. I don't think it's ever actually felt poorly paced, and so why would he suddenly make it rushed now all of a sudden? He doesn't have to. He's not forced to end it now. He has chosen this to be the end of the story. So I have
Mm-hmm.
complete trust in that. Hashtag in Isayama we trust.
Yeah, exactly. Our motto.
Yeah.
Uh, no, I don't see this being rushed. In fact, I think this goes in line with what we were saying last month. We said, okay, Armin will become the Colossal Titan in this chapter,
Hmm.
and then the last two chapters will be about we'll have Aaron in it. And I think we even said this chapter may not even have Aaron, any sort of Aaron scenes.
Yeah.
And like, look, we were right.
Yeah.
And I think it's because he's saving that for the end. He's letting that kind of simmer to this point, and I think it's ripe for that interaction. The same with Historia. I'm not sure if we'll get
Yeah.
it next chapter. I think it's still a possibility,
Hmm.
but for sure, last chapter we will see Historia again,
Yeah.
and there'll be a lot of I think there'll be a lot of loose ends, and in 47 pages, is that usually how many pages it is? It
Something like that.
well, I guess 40, probably like 45, 46. I'm including the cover.
Ah, ah.
Um, it's going that's enough content, enough pages to explain most everything, I think, or
Yeah.
at least to have for a fairly satisfying ending.
I agree. Totally.
I wouldn't object to a super omega chapter. But
Yeah.
we already got the kind of ultimate climactic moment, at least action wise, in
Mhm.
this chapter, and it was done beautifully, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Um, so I think we are ripe for everything to unravel and get some good closure.
Yeah. One thing that is kind of right here, basically, that I'm very curious about, and that I haven't really been able to come up with any predictions for, is the shootings at Fort Salta, that from the previous chapter.
Mm.
That's still something that I'm very curious to see what actually went down there.
Again, I, sorry to keep saying this, but last month I said that it's just smoke and mirrors kind of thing. It's not going to be anything big. The two fires, I mean, either he shot the ground, he shot at his own men, or he shot somewhere else. It's just going to be kind of like, hey, don't, they're not the enemy, or something like that. He's going to explain what he learned. Um,
I really hope so.
I, I don't see it going any other way, especially with how this ending is going. That said, I'm pretty sure they would all stop anyway with this big explosion happening. Uh,
Yeah.
so it, it may not even matter.
Right. Yeah, no, but yeah, it's definitely interesting. And I think while the ending is going to be, I think, a lot of lives will have been lost by the time the story ends. It's possible that a majority of three of the continents has been wiped out. I still think that there's going to, like, kind of similarly as how Isayama kind of portrays the world of Attack on Titan. It is a cruel world, but there is also beauty in it. And I think maybe there's going to be some kind of ending along those lines where it's gone really bad, but there will be some, like, a spark of light in there somewhere. And I think that spark of light will be something along the lines of um, Eldians and non-Eldians finding a new way to get along. But maybe that's wishful. I don't know, and I don't know how realistic it is. And I think it would probably have to take a lot of time to get there. So maybe we'll get some kind of epilogue that takes place in the not too distant future, where things are going better, possibly.
I agree with you. I mean, I think the ultimate ending will be, yeah, them living together, working as one.
Hmm.
Um, and it won't be easy at first. I think that's what this shooting scene is supposed to be about. Is it's not going to be a quick change,
Yeah.
um, but as they come to see that they are people and um, they are the same, then yeah, they'll slowly start to heal those wounds. And
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe like we were saying earlier, maybe Lionheart has to take a bullet for that. They see that he takes it, and they're curious why he doesn't transform into Titan, even though he obviously can't. But maybe they don't understand that.
Uh,
So they see that they're like, oh wait, they bleed just like I do. Oh, I don't know. I mean,
maybe. I mean, maybe.
that's just one silly possibility. Anyway,
Yeah.
I agree with you that will be a huge thing going forward, and that they will reunite as one, and parody will be free in that sense.
Yeah. I think we talked about pretty much everything we could, right?
Yeah, I think we're good. It's just for me, this chapter was one of the best chapters I've read in the series. I don't know if it's hard for me to say what's a 10 or what's a 9. I think right now I'll put it as a 9. Oh, well, I may go all the way to 10,
Uh huh.
just because there's so many good character moments and developments, and it had action and a bit of tragic. I think I'll say 10. I'll say a 10 out of 10 chapter. I haven't really given too many chapters 10 out of 10, so I'll go there.
You know what? I'm going there too.
Nice.
I don't, and I
Nice.
definitely don't hand out 10s easily, but
No. Yeah.
this was a 10 out of 10 for me. Um, it was a 10 out of 10 for me in the same kind of way that chapter 121 was,
Mm.
where where Grisha grew, like who was a character I was already kind of interested in and intrigued by. He grew so much in that one chapter, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Zeke did that for me in this chapter, and Armin too. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, 10 out of 10 for me as well. Beautiful chapter, and leaves me very excited for the ending.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what this chapter did so well. Is yeah, just really. Well, it did so many things incredibly well, but it also just leaves you excited for more and wanting more.
Uh
So
huh.
that's great. Um, you touched on Zeke. That Zeke was that character for me where I didn't really like Zeke too much. I didn't hate him, and going back and rereading the volumes and hearing his backstory was helpful for me understanding him better and liking him more. But having this ultimate payoff and his growth and death, it just really made me appreciate it more and put him higher up my list. I think, and
Nice.
I can see now more than ever why people will love Zeke. So
Nice. Yeah.
it's really great.
Really great. Well, I guess that's it then.
Yeah, I'm done.
Thank you everyone who listened to us geek out about this for however long it was, almost 2 hours. If you're listening to this on YouTube, you can find some links in our video description. There's a link to our open Discord server that you can join and talk about Attack on Titan if you want. We also have links to our Twitter where you can follow if you want to do that. There's a link to James's other YouTube channel, Nintensity, where he covers Nintendo and gaming topics and does streams and stuff. And you can also find me on YouTube and SoundCloud as Leon Morris, where I share all the music that I produce. And thanks again for listening. We'll see you all next time, where we'll talk about chapter 138. Bye bye.
Oh, bye.